podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to your new instalment of Red Alert, people. So this month, we'll be looking back to November because we are recording this on the Sunday, the 3rd of December, just before the Fulham game as well, just before anyone thinks we're playing Nostradamus or trying to be super clever. Obviously, it's the morning. The game has not kicked off, so we will be predicting that one as well. We do not know the result, which, let's be honest, me and Mark will probably get it wildly wrong anyway, but that's by the by. So, yeah, I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a fucking freezing, snowy, icy Edinburgh. It looks scenic. It's got the Christmas vibe, the postcard, the Christmas card, etc., but it's treacherously cold out there. Mark, I'm guessing it's the same outside yours as well?
It is, mate, yeah. We're doing this early in the morning. I've fired the heating on, but it's not quite got the house where we want it yet. I'm sitting here a little chilly.
Yeah, well, he is saying that. He does live in a stately home because he's a bit of a middle-class bastard. So, you know, anyone on the travelling cot drinking their Madri or their breakfast, yeah, morning to you as well. So, Mark, we'll do the usual. We'll go through November, which was, well, as normal, it was not what we predicted. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the normal off-the-field matters and other things that have come up, the big headlines from the month. And then we will take a look to December, as Jurgen Klopp calls it, the most intense period in football. And Christ, when you look at that fixture list and everything coming up, you can understand why he said it. But before we go to December, mate, November. I mean, I'm looking at those results from November. I'm looking at what we predicted for November, and it don't quite match up. Let's put it that way, so to speak. So when you look back now, hindsight's 2020, of course, how are you honestly feeling about November when you look back at it in the games?
Yeah, it never does match up to our predictions, let's be honest. It's, you know, if it was easy to predict football matches, there'd be a lot of poor bookies and a lot of rich gamblers. It never is that way. Yeah, it's a funny month, really, because as we sit here now looking back at it.
Hey, this is Chuck the Goat from Goat USA. I wanted to break into your podcast and tell you about the new Goat USA store at Garden State Plaza. Check us out next to Seasons 52 across from Fogo de Chao. Be the goat by wearing the goat and gift your loved ones with the greatest apparel of all time. Heavenly soft and incredibly durable, Goat USA sweatshirts and joggers are the most outstanding gifts this holiday season. So come see us at Garden State Plaza. And if you don't know, you soon will. Goat USA. Apparel for kids and adults. Chuck out.
Or in fact, let's look at where we are now in result of it. We find ourselves through top of the group in the Europe. Yeah. We're through in the League Cup to the quarterfinals. And if we win our game in hand over Arsenal today, we go 2 points behind them in the title race. So actually a really good position, you know, probably better than we would have hoped at this stage of the season, because, you know, we're starting to get through it now. We're well over a third into the season.
Yeah.
However, if you actually, you know, break down the month individually, there were very few, I mean, I would actually say no top performances. I would say a couple of okay performances and a couple of really not very good performances. It was quite a long month, really. If you think back, the first game of the month's all the way back in the League Cup away to Bournemouth. That's the one where Jota scores that beautiful goal, bent it in the sort of top corner after his dodgy touch. That feels like a lifetime ago for me now. I can barely remember. I mean, yeah, it really does. And then we go on to the Luton game next, which was awful, really, really awful. very lucky to come out of that with anything in reality. We had that sort of emotional Diaz goal, after his sort of family ordeal, which was a nice moment, but it didn't really take the shine off what was a terrible, terrible game. Followed by Toulouse, even worse. Genuinely, possibly the worst one of the month. Really, really bad performance. Kind of the worst we've seen all season, I would say. I know there were changes and things, but we have a pretty thick squad these days, and I don't expect our level to go from what we had seen, I guess, in October down to that level.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of a better showing against Brentford, a 3-0 win at home, some decent goals in there, some good sort of link-up play with Nunes and Salah, a couple of really nice finishes, Salah's in particular, the first one.
Yeah.
On to the biggest game of the month, we've got Man City away, traditionally a game we just don't win. Klopp never wins that one in the league. Didn't go in with any expectation. It's a rare one that we all predicted us to lose that one, in the thing. We were actually wrong in the wrong direction this time. We didn't lose that one. We picked up a point. However, it was really underwhelming in performance for me. I think lucky would have to be the word you'd throw at it. We didn't. I guess we were resilient. That's the best thing you could say about it. We hung in there, which this Liverpool side does seem to have. We've seen that a lot of times now this season. We have that ability to dig deep when we aren't playing so well. Really valuable, asset to have in the team. And a great goal from Trent as well. Let's not go in without mentioning it. Real bit of quality, the touch on the outside of the boot, and an excellent finish from a guy that hadn't been having his best spell up to that point. I felt like that was an important moment for Trent. And then we finished the month against last there in the Europa, which was a really good performance, but against a really mediocre team, if we're honest. And hard to overpraise it because our level should just be so superior to theirs. It was still good, good goals. Good to see Gakpo getting a couple. Salah, of course, didn't do very much, but still comes out with his traditional goal and assist. And we end the month with, like I said, finding ourselves in a good position, but actually for me, a pretty underwhelming month. Didn't really enjoy any of the performances. None of them made me think title. None of them made me think that I fancy us to win kind of every single time I see them. That confidence you build just for an individual game basis. There's been a lot of times under Klopp I've gone and just fancying the win every time. And now I think we're just slightly back to that. I hope they play well today, kind of thing. That's probably my take on it. I don't know if you agree with that or if you think it was more positive than that.
I think it's funny. James isn't here if anyone's plots. Normally we have James here, and you probably saw him last month. He's the one that orchestrates this all. We're going to win every game 5-0, Mr. Uber positive. And look, we let him go for 1 minute, and Mark's now, we suck at everything. We're not like this. But I think there's the way I think about it, honestly, is the City game typified the month. I think you phrased it well at the start. Look at where we are near the top. We're gonna, we've topped the Europa. We're right near the top of the table. The outcome is proving better than the performance, like City. That's what I honestly look at for the month. And like you, I have to be honest and think, and he started so well against Bournemouth. That's what frustrated me. It looked good. Like Quansah was great. Nunes bends that one, an absolute worldie in the top cut. And you're thinking this is going to be Darwin takeoff type of thing. That's what we're alluding to. And then there's Luton, where, we had about 1 million chances. And not just Nunes. Nunes is guilty of that horrendous miss. Let's be clear, I'm not papering over that by any means. But not just Nunes. The team is just so wasteful. I think the XG was nearly 4. And then they get hit on the break. And yes, the Diaz moment. But we're like, come on, boys. And you think, turn it around, like you say. Toulouse was abject. Let's just be honest. I think you absolutely nailed it there. He was abject. And we have to be honest because we talk about the rotation and how good that's been. Like Lask, we praise them, like the people coming in, great. So you've got to give the balance there because a lot were abject against Toulouse. And also at the same time, even in that Toulouse game, you probably remember, the likes of Salah, Boslai came on at half-time and it was still poor, really, really poor. So there was a little period I'm like, what's going on? And Brentford was good. I think it was a good performance. Christ, we needed it because that was just before the international break, if you remember. And I'm thinking can't be going into the international break, lads, ahead of City like this way type of thing. But it was a good performance, like especially like you said, punctuated by that first goal. That one where Nunes takes it in, lays it off beautifully to Salah. That was one you're thinking, yeah, Salah gets a few that way. City, yeah, it wasn't great. I don't care what anyone says. The performance was not particularly great. We sort of ran out of ideas, it looked like, in the second half. A bit of Trent magic gets it. But I kind of do feel like that looking back, that, again, performances, meh, some like, dear God. So bits of good, should just label it all negative. But you look at where we are in the tables, plural, we're into the next round of the Carabao. We got the quarters against West Ham. We're just off top. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Fulham today, and we'll predict that. And we've gone through, and it makes the last game in the Europa a dead rubber. So outcome better than performance. That's the way I kind of feel about it, in all honesty. So maybe, just maybe, let's hope that it's a good show of resilience, a good precursor for good outcomes and good performances in December. But yeah, let's put it under that. The result is better, but
yeah, I think sometimes you look back at a season as a whole. We're just looking at 1 month here. You look back at a season as a whole, and there are going to be bits where you didn't play well. And there's a chance we'll look back at this month and say that was the bit we dug deep. That was the bit where we just got ourselves through it, kind of thing. And kept ourselves in the battle. Because I don't think this Liverpool team is good enough to go and win the final 15 league matches, and storm to a title in that way. I think we're going to have to stay in the fight. If we are to have a title challenge, it can never get far away. It can't get to 5, 7, all on the same games. We really, really have to stay punchy, stay there, be ready. Because I think there are a lot of good teams this year. I think Arsenal, I think Newcastle, I think these teams can take points off each other, off City. And you want to stay in the position where you can kind of take advantage of that slip, when it comes. It's no use being 7 clear if they draw with each other and you bring it down to 5. You're still not close enough, So I think it's important that even in a month where we don't do as well performance-wise, that we've just managed to kind of stay in the fight. We didn't let City beat us. That would have been really, really potentially the end. City would just start to get away then. Like I said, I just can't see us outperforming them by that level over the whole season. So I think it could turn out to be a really valuable month. It just wasn't a good one aesthetically. It wasn't good to watch. It wasn't good confidence-wise. I went into the month after a pretty good October feeling pretty buoyed and looking forward to some big performances. And on paper, we had a lot of really winnable games and we didn't win them all. So yeah, you have to be honest and say, there was disappointment there. There has to be, but also great that we're still where we are in the fight.
Yeah, and that resilience. I mean, especially the late goals. I know obviously people look at Luton 1-1 and all that, but like you said, the Diaz, it still shows that resilience to get that late goal. Even the Toulouse, I mean, the joke one where, do you remember Kwanzaa's goal was disallowed because it hit McAllister's arm about 57 minutes ago or something like that. So that, I mean, we didn't deserve it. I'm not pretending that for 1 second, but that should have been a draw, as we know. Again, you're thinking late goals. Even Trent, it wasn't last minute, but it was in the later stages past the 80th minute of the game. That was probably the big positive, and it's a good quality to have. And like you said, I don't think necessarily the team like we were a few years ago, we're going to blow teams away and just, who knows, we could do, but if we do, it'll probably be last minute winners, a bit of resilience, digging it out, and it's good to see that we're doing that as well. I mean, this is probably an interesting one, maybe not too many candidates. Best performance, I might differ on this, best performance of the month for you?
Yeah, I went into the month really looking for Darwin. I thought he was going to fly at it this month, and we actually had a pretty good month for forwards. We got 11 goals across the forwards. Darwin actually only got one of them, which was that first one we talked about in the League Cup. A few really bad misses for Darwin, but also a few good bits of link-up. I would say I was probably disappointed with Darwin's month overall. I really thought he was going to kick on, and get a few more goals this month. Didn't quite manage it. Gakpo comes and gets 3 this month. That was nice to see because he's been having a difficult season to this point, I would say. Salah didn't really blow me away with any of his performances, but he's still up there scoring loads and assisting loads every single time, Diaz came back in. I was pleased with that. He looks to kind of found the level again because after the deal with his family. There was a worry, he wasn't playing as often. Where was his head at? It's very difficult to be at that top level with that all going on behind you. Szoboszlai's kind of carried on.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Really well, generally. McAllister up and down, I would say. A couple of really good ones, couple of not so good ones. I think the only one for me that comes out with absolute full marks is Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk pretty much is playing between an 8 and a 10 every single time he plays at the moment. And I think the likes of the City game, you can't go there and get a result without that. I think if the likes of Van Dijk just doesn't play well there, I put Alisson kind of in this same sort of bracket. Their elite level elevates the team just in a way that you can barely quantify, and how the confidence it gives everybody else around them, not just their own performances, And I definitely think Van Dijk's brought himself back there now, where I think there's a swagger. Everybody kind of knows he's back to, I wouldn't say invincible because he has been invincible at times, but close. He's really not that far from peak Van Dijk. He's certainly the best defender in the league again. He's if he ever wasn't, and I think him more than anyone has given me confidence about the season going forward. I really do have confidence in us grinding, in us getting through these big moments. I think back to the kind of peak of Jurgen's time at Liverpool and these European runs and things, these massive games. And Van Dijk was just a colossus in them. He really was. He was, you think back to those huge ones, you've got like Barcelona, coming to town and we're keeping clean sheets in these games. You can't do that without a peak Van Dijk. And I think there's a lot to be hopeful about with Van Dijk's form. It's the best form since the injury, no doubt about it. And I also just feel like the captaincy, his demeanour, all of the sort of body language just looks right again to me. It looks confident. I'm kind of full faith restored, I think.
Which is interesting because I thought you'd go different. I thought you might go Salah with the stats, but I am exactly the same. I mean, I looked at Salah's month, and on a pure stat basis, again, as always, it looks immense. But it was almost the contradiction this month. It seemed to be, for me, the worse Salah played, the more he scored and assisted almost.
Yeah.
It was just out the game, nothing, then pops up with a goal and assist, that type of thing. And it was interesting because I also think of like that City game, because that was always going to punctuate the month. I mean, Salah created a few chances but didn't have a shot. And that's the first time for a long time, as the Up Boys were saying. So that was quite distinct for me. You then look at other candidates, and we're bringing in a lot of the usual people here, but Alisson, I mean, he is so quality, but he will want to forget that City game. Let's not pretend. He'll want that to evaporate from his memory for numerous reasons. I mean, strange because he had a terrible day by his standards, but he still makes a brilliant save, doesn't he, from Haaland later on, that type of thing. The injury will come on. We'll talk about later. But
I think his golden save was like save of the month or something, wasn't it? I mean, in his worst ever game, he's still getting save of the month.
It's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, I think that, we sometimes splitting hairs in these, we've got to be honest. Van Dijk, I think, like, you look at all the games, and maybe it's telling where he didn't play. He doesn't play in Toulouse, does he? And look at how shaky that back line looks all of a sudden without him. But he's back for Brentford, and he is unbelievable against Brentford, like you say. Peak City, again, very good. I don't really attribute the goal or any sort of mistakes in that game to him. So, yeah, for me, just on that regard, there wasn't a lot of players that shone. Probably Darwin will be hoping, I agree with that, for a better December because he's looked so good at internationals. He looked good in that Carabao game, and you thought this could be the run. And it's kind of, he has, if you look at just pure stats, been outperformed by a lot of his teammates that way as well. And he looked in a good way. In a good way, I think he looked a bit peed off against Last the other night. Watching, you could see, give me a goal. Everyone else is getting in on the Gakpo second. All the other teammates, you can see Darwin's like, fucking should have passed it to me in the middle type of thing. You can see that. You can see that with him. So, yeah, for me, I do think in a bizarrest way, because we've been talking about contest and how it's been positive, Van Dijk, clear and easy for November. I can't really bring, and I know people are going to be shouting at this and saying, Mo Salah's on 199, not debating that. A demigod, the Egyptian king is a legend. But for performance, we've both gone Van Dijk. Anything else you're thinking when you look back there, Mark, worth calling out or that we haven't really talked about in November? A lot happened, but a lot didn't almost at the same time, shall we say?
Yeah, we often do kind of, our best performance of the month, that sort of thing. And it's quite a difficult one to kind of best performance this month. It's the City result is the best result. I mean, we have to say that, going to the Etihad and not losing, that's really difficult to do. They were on a 23-game run, or very, very difficult to go and get anything there. Nobody does effectively. But actually, if we're honest, it wasn't a good performance, really. So I'm not going to call that our best performance. I think the Brentford one is the only one that I would say is actually a legitimately really good performance. Lask has to be handicapped by the opposition, I think, and that really leaves you. I mean, we had the win against Bournemouth in the Cup, but I don't think we were particularly great that night. The Luton game was awful. Toulouse, pretty awful. Not great against City. So that really just leaves you Brentford as the only legitimately good performance.
It's like a shit game of Guess Who, this, isn't it? We're just knocking them down one by one. That is what's left, yeah. And I'd agree. I mean, people, before you think we're being down on it, Lask is a good game to have probably at this time of the season, isn't it? And it is, we played well. I think the last coach thought he could come to Anfield and take us on toe-to-toe, which just played into our hands. And they had their chances, but we were always going to have chances. So it was a good... I think if we're honest, we'll probably look back on this as what I called it in the chat, a stat padder a little bit, so to speak. So put it this way, you won't be scoring 4 against Lask and then not doing the same or notching them against Fulham or the bigger league games. But yeah, for me, Brentford, clear and easy. So that was on the field. Off the field, it was a bit injuries as the precursor, wasn't it, for November, Mark? Not always a positive on this. I mean, we finally, as I say, we've got updates on Thiago Alcantara. We finally got updates on Stefan Bajcetic. So David Lynch, friend of the channel, actually asked the question to Jurgen in the press conference. It's kind of gone quiet for a while, hadn't it? Like, what's going on? And he did talk in depth. I mean, the easiest one to start with, say, is Baj. He didn't give us a time scale. He's working back. It's like, that is open-ended. Thiago gave us a bit of a timescale here, Mark. So kind of intimated that, as he said, he would be back on the grass, back running, so to speak, December time, with the option of, hopefully, as they said, January. And then he kind of eulogised, which is not a dig at the manager, but it's a nice smokescreen, isn't it, to take people going like, well, when in January? Give us a date type of thing, which we all want. And we want to precursor this as well with Jurgen does lie. Jurgen doesn't always give us the full details at times, as we know, or a minor can turn into a long absence that way as well. So when you've heard it, this is probably the most loaded question I'm going to ask you today. Are we seeing either of these soon in your eyes?
I don't think we're seeing Badge anytime soon. I really don't. That one's worrying. It's been a very long time now, and we're not really getting any progress in the words that Jurgen uses. It's kind of the same rhetoric over and over and over, time and space and alleviate pressure, all that sort of stuff. I guess in some ways the Thiago one's even more frustrating. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. This is just off my own memory, but I thought last time Jurgen kind of dated the Thiago stuff, that he gave us like 3-4 weeks before we might see him back on the training ground, which I think was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think we're like kind of at that time roughly now, where we'd expect.
It's a fair shout because he's given a time scale, but in his defence, he said like Thiago had a second breakdown, didn't he? Like further injuries and struggles. And as a few of the up boys have mentioned, unfortunately, the nature of long-term injuries is those players like Diaz, if you remember, had to get the second operation. People coming back from long-term injuries tend to pick up niggles as the body gets used to that sort of intensity, especially we know how Klopp plays as well. So, I think that's there, to be fair.
Yeah, I think with Thiago, the real disappointment is just the absolute quality of the man. You know, we find ourselves, like we said, in the fight, you know, for all of it. And I think if you could inject a bit of Thiago into this team, it would be frightening. You know, it really would. I don't know why it's happened, but I'm sure you've seen it over the last week. Twitter's been awash with Thiago compilations, you know, these sort of best moments at Liverpool. And you sometimes forget just how good this guy is. You know, he really is. He's an technical wizard, you know, really like has no rival for me technically in the midfield sort of positions. I think with the kind of newbies we've got around, you know, guys that haven't gone on to win things for Liverpool, these new midfielders, we've got 3 that came in the summer there, that 4 in fact if you include Endo, that haven't been there and done it, you know, gone to the dogfights through Christmas, you know, and gone on that run to win the titles at the end of the season. I think there is no more experienced and quality you could ask for than having a Thiago, you know, on the starting lineup, or even at least on the bench and properly involved, you know, there, someone you can rely on, look to a little bit of wisdom maybe. So I really would love to see him come back, but I think we've sort of got to the stage now where he's more like a bonus than an expectation or a hope or something that we should rely on. Because even if he does come back, I mean, do you have any faith that he remains fit? I think we've kind of got to that stage, haven't we?
Yeah, it's almost becoming, this sounds terrible, because I know we start the season with, if we can just in his last year get 20 to 25 games out of him, that can be big. He can have a real impact in the big moments. And then it shrinks down. And it's almost at the stage of, if we're being honest, because, I mean, we both love Thiago. We're watching those compilations, people. And yeah, it's got obviously the banging grind music, as they always add to them. Me and Mark are stroking the screen with James Bond's Goodbye, My Lover playing in the background, watching these Thiago compilations. Like, we love this boy. Let's be absolutely clear. He's an absolute magician. And it's only because of that, let's be honest, Mark, it's only because of that we're now at if we can just get 10 games out of him, that's where we've got to. And we're even doing it. We know we're doing it to ourselves. Like, if we could just get 10 games on it. Now, these 10 games can be like 25 minutes at the end just to unlock the opposition defence or just to give us that control. I know, as we're saying this and we're talking, there's a whiff of desperation in that. We have to be honest on that. I mean, I don't know what's honestly going to happen. The positive me says, like, in that sense, that the heart is telling me he can have a big impact. He could make a real difference in, the second half of the season. That's the optimism in me. The realism in me is now even just flicking the needle the other way, being honest, to would it actually surprise me if we didn't see him in a red shirt again? And I'm actually being honest and saying, I don't think the word surprise really comes into it anymore. It would be understandable, maybe, if that's the right phrase. So that I'm dealing with, in the sense of almost, it's shocking. It really is in that regard. But I wouldn't be surprised to use that if we didn't see him maybe often or at all. That's just the nature of it, because it goes longer. Badge. I am almost agreeing with you. And I know Thiago is the far better player right now, but Badge is getting more and more worrying for me because there's no time scale on this at all. And it's been a long term. Jurgen's used this phrase a couple of times. Boy in a man's body. Now, he only played, as we know, sort of a handful of games, about 10, 12 games. The worry is his body already letting him down? I.e., is it not ready? Is he not able to cope, with the rigours of not just professional football, but a Klopp midfield, all those types of things? And it goes on and on. So when he does come back, how long is he going to need to get up to full speed? And there's no pre-season anymore, isn't it? It's just the games, bang, bang, bang. So how long is he going to need? How long would a phased introduction take? And then, like you said, to come back to Thiago question,
Making it to Wednesday is a win in itself, and Dunkin' thinks you deserve a reward. That's why every Wednesday, now through December, Dunkin' Rewards members get a free donut with drink purchase. So whether you like your midweek pick-me-ups oozing with chocolate or filled with jelly, it's on us, because you deserve it. Save time and order ahead on the app with Dunkin' Rewards. Not a member? Join today. America runs on Dunkin'. Limit 1 classic donut per member per Wednesday. Terms and exclusions may apply. Participation may vary. Offer ends 12/27/2023.
Is he going to be up to it? Is his body going to be able to handle the rigors, if you know what I mean? And especially when you see him the demands, like the players you mentioned that we're putting on, Szoboszlai, McAllister, all of those right now. I mean, I would love to be hopeful. I'd love to be optimistic. I've got real high hopes for both those players. One short term, one longer term, naturally. But I'm a bit, let's just say this season, anything's a bonus for me now. I know that sounds almost defeatist and people will be going, oh, I don't know about you, but I am of that feeling. Maybe anything's a bit of a bonus with these two this campaign.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, the right way to look at it. I like the thing you said about Thiago, even the 10-game thing, because if you think about the way the first half of the season's gone, we've had a lot of the big boys away. So we've got a lot of these big home games to come in the second half of the season. You know, you got your City, Spurs, Chelsea's, Newcastle's. There's a lot of really big ones there. If you imagine you could just get Thiago on the field for those 90s, you know, those massive ones, because those will be the definers, really. You expect most of us will do similarly against the weaker sides. But like I said earlier, there are a lot of these teams that can beat each other this season, in my view. And if you can be the one that wins those, and for me, Thiago is you know, a key to doing that. He really, already in his kind of unsuccessful or blighted Liverpool career, he has had a huge impact in those big games, even against the likes of City. Remember the cup match where we beat them? He was absolutely extraordinary in that game, really was. I think he could be the difference maker. And then for Baj, the only other thing we haven't really mentioned on him is that he actually will find it harder. Let's just imagine he's fit now. He'll find it harder to get in anyway. You know, the amount of bodies in front of him last season at the tail end was zero. It was literally him or nobody, you know. And yes, he ran with it and did brilliantly and looked just a real prospect. But that isn't the case anymore. You know, it looks like Thiago will be back before him. So that means you'll have, you know, Jones, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Elliott, Gravenberch. I mean, it's a long list, isn't it, of guys ahead of him, and they all would be probably ahead of him.
Yeah, indeed. It will be interesting to see what happens. And look at us already. We're already talking or getting in our heads 10, 15 games. And I know there will be people watching this, and I understand now the logic of somebody will be saying, let him go in January, get another one ahead. You know, I understand all that. I can make a case either way, but time will tell.
That's a question for you, would you?
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes.
It's like a Thuram, you know, like who we were linked with in the summer. Thiago out, Thuram in.
It's with a heavy heart, but I would say yes. I think one of the things that's punctuated this season is we've had the opposite of last season's midfield crocs or absenteeisms or lack of legs. It's the opposite. It's been availability. We've loved, let's be honest, we've loved seeing Szoboszlai pressing in the 90th minute like a demon and all that, the side going. That has really been a key point of this season. And a key point why we've got late goals or we've gone right till the end type of scenarios as well. So I think that's great. as much as I love Thiago, and I actually there's a little bit of sick coming into my mouth as I'm saying this, I would temper him going in some format in Jan. Because the other thing I thought that we didn't bring onto the table, massive earner. Massive earner, as we know. 200 grand is the rumour suggestion a week, one of the top earners. So he's costing us a lot of money to not play, and that will come into people's arguments. So this sounds horrendous, sounds blasphemy me saying it, but if you could do it, someone said to me now, and I know we're going pie in the sky a little bit, but someone like a Thuram in, to Thiago out in Jan, I do it. Heavy heart, but I do it.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, it's if you just look at what you would expect to get out of those respective players, I know we're just picking Thuram as one, it could be anyone, but what you'd expect to get out of them in the 6 months, you'd have to be more confident of getting something out of someone else than you would of Thiago, I think.
100%. And listen, we picked a name there, so before people start commenting on what about Max Wiefer, what about Andre, and I said a midfield. That's what we say. I think
anyone, yeah.
Which for two Thiago lovers probably says it all. Now, people that were playing Mark until the City game, Alisson and Jota. So different prognosis there from Jurgen, wasn't it? Alisson, I don't know if you call it good news. I don't know if that's the phrase, but it's Hammy that's suggesting that, and Jurgen was quite clear, almost drew the timeline, didn't he? Won't be back for this one against Fulham, won't be back for the week after, maybe the week after. So everyone obviously scrolls the diary and goes, come on, that United game. That's the one we all pencil in naturally. Jota, Jurgen gave us and we know how he does it. It's worse. And then we know what Jurgen's worse can normally involve as well. Yeah. So what are you genuinely thinking when you hear those phrases? Concerned at all, especially about what it might mean with those two out?
Yeah, I mean, the Alisson one's the real worry as far as what we're missing, because, we do have 5 really good forwards. There's cover for Jota. I mean, Jota's only ever in the argument for being a starter rather than, a key figure, if you will. Alisson, on the other hand, is in the argument for most important player that we have. So his absence is just going to be felt. That's a fact. He's the best 1-on-1 goalkeeper on the planet. He's so reliable. The City game aside, it's been a long time since we've had anything other than brilliance from Alisson. Luckily, it sounds like that's the one that's not gonna be too long. I agree. Jurgen does lie. He's always careful with his words, or snappy about it, or ambiguous with his delivery. But the Alisson one, I felt like he was fairly precise with it, in a way that surely it can't be much longer than that if he's given us United. That really is 2 weeks away. You can't go from that to, although he has before, to like a 3-month injury or something of that ilk. So I think given the fixtures we have before United, I'm not too disappointed with that. Because, it's Fulham, it's Sheffield United, it's Palace, and then I think the dead rubber in Europe, and then it's United. And those ones on paper are, if you were going to pick a few not to have Alisson, maybe those would be it. For Jota, actually, I think it's really worrying, truthfully. Not just by the way Jurgen's talking about it, because it's clearly going to be a long one again. It's more that it continues this cycle for Jota where we don't really get a whole season. There's always, and it's not just, like Kanate has these sort of issues, right? But his can actually be quite short, can be just a few weeks. They're usually muscle things and frustrating, but they're usually just 2-3 weeks. The Jota ones are actually a level up from that for me. Usually it's months, use 2-3 months at a time of a season from Jota. And unfortunately, Jota is a form player to a degree. He hits these runs, these spells. And if you're taking out months at a time and then waiting for him to hit form, as you sometimes have to, if you looked at a balanced season for him, I think the overall picture would start to look not so positive, I think, for Jota. And maybe if you're sizing up, where we can improve the squad, these injuries might really weigh against Jota in those debates, I think. A real shame, because I do like Jota. I think he brings something we don't have. His finishing ability is just top class, really is. Maybe the best finisher in the team. Has a knack for goals as well. Just like finds himself, in areas and getting on the end of things and niggly goals. All those kind of cheap ones, if you will. I think we lack that at times. Darwin likes the special ones, doesn't get as many tap-ins sort of thing. Diaz tends to like mazy runs, although he is getting a few headers at the moment. I think Jota was like a different kind of forward, and we will miss that kind of forward, I think. And great presser, as we know. A real shame for him, but ultimately I think quite worrying, truthfully, as far as his long-term future at the club.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, yeah, Christ, if Jurgen's being ambiguous, shall we say, there's going to be a lot of questions asked before that United game. As in, hold on, you said X, Y, Z, so fingers crossed we are just a short-term absence. Like you said, you never want Alisson to be out the team. He's the world's best. But if you had to pick a period where you were told, a deal with the devil, he's going to be out, you probably would look at those games and say, like, yeah, can we take it there, please, if I have to, type of thing. And so also it'd be interesting to see how Kelleher does, because, I mean, we've talked before, I think we find almost the idea of Kelleher in recent times has been better than the reality. However, part of that, which we did say for context, was a run of games, he never gets it. Now he's going to get it. So hopefully, a little bit like Tsimikas has started to upturn, hopefully we'll see that with Kelleher in that regard. Yeah, we really want Alisson, especially as we know for the games coming in December are massive. You want him in the sticks.
Yeah, it's a great comparison. That Tsimikas we were all kind of writing off, and like you said, the run of games has made the difference. Good start for Kelleher against Lask. Hopefully there's a wee run there now.
Hopefully there's that upturn, fingers crossed. And Jota, it's always the City game that always seems to be distinct. I mean, remember last season, the City game was where we won 1-0 when Salah scored that goal. That's where we just went down all of a sudden and was out for months and right till the end of the season. The season before, the nearly quadruple season, that's where we scored in the 2-2 and then didn't score for 23 games after that. It's always something in the City. And now look at this City game away now that I'm also like you. He does pick up. They're not small and regular. They're rare but long. And when I say rare, it means, yes, one a season, but they tend to be extended periods, don't they, with Diogo Jota? Diogo Jota picks up muscle strains. And people thinking, yeah, we've got other options. I understand that. Like you said, though, he might well be the best finisher at the club. He is the second highest goal scorer. He's got 8 already this season. A lot of the slaloms, the tap-ins, there's a real variety to his finishing. It's weird with Jota, because I wouldn't say by any means he's the best player in the forward line, but there's a real strong argument that he's the best finisher in the forward line, and he has the most variety even for the smallest one. With his head, like Diaz, he's brilliant, isn't he? He gets in all variety of places, and with the fixture list and the congestion, I just get the gut feeling we might well not see Diogo Jota until well into 2024, and there's a lot of games, a lot of fixtures. And then the other thing, I know it's looking a bit ahead, Mark, and we don't know. I don't think you want Mo Salah going to the AFCON and Diogo Jota out. You think about that. There's going to be a period that's your 2 top goal scorers as it stands right now.
Realistic prospect now, really.
Yeah, indeed. So fingers crossed. We need a little bit of luck here, but I don't think either of us expecting it with what's happened with Jota. So to try and bring other off-the-field matters to a positive, because it's been quite dreary there, but that's the harsh reality. Annie Road. We got an Annie Road update because, everyone's been speculating on this. Me and you have, I know Mark's in the building trade, so he knows, so I send them this. And obviously I, of course, look at the drone photos and become an instant building expert of how long this stand redevelopment will take and what's wrong with a cavity wall, never mind what is a cavity wall and what's a supporting wall. And we chat through and support. And obviously, I'm sure we all did this. And next season, 2024, blah, blah, blah. However, Mark, we got a positive update. So as David Lynch again broke it, test event set to take place, the chance to have a partially open Upper Annie Road for the United game. That is a massive positive, isn't it? Let's not undersell this. This is a massive positive for everyone.
Enormous, and the game they've managed to get it going for is perfect. What a time to open the new upper part of the stand. Actually, for me, it was a surprise. I don't know if you were expecting that, but the news had been kind of negative in the weeks before. You know, we'd had this kind of breakdown because before the bad news, which had come just weeks before, it felt like it was imminent. You know, we were watching, you and I, obviously, we get down to a lot of the games, and we were watching the seats go in week by week, and you know, guessing ourselves at how close that must be, and hopeful because we actually we had tickets in there, didn't we? I mean, we'd be in there today if it had been open on time, and we had our United tickets in there, which we've unfortunately lost, which was my fault, and Dave has not forgiven me for. I went in and got our tickets and bought them in there. But I think the kind of uplift that'll give will be huge. It does actually bother me a little bit being in there with the empty bit. I mean, it's great to see it getting built, but there's something about you know, if you imagine that was just a short stand, it was only the bottom tier and it was full, it would be completely different to looking at an empty, you know, top half. It kind of reminds me of the COVID stuff a little bit. You know, these massive empty parts of a stadium, it does affect the atmosphere a little bit for me. So I think just on that basis alone, I mean, that's an actual measurable difference for the atmosphere. You know, thousands more people behind the goal. It also just looks really good now. You know, that was the last weak part of the stadium, and it's gone. It's, you know, it wasn't. I remember the Kenny stand getting done. The Cop's obviously world famous. We just got the main stand, and now a brand new Anfield Road end. It really. You can do the owners thing, you know, back and forth, but one thing nobody would debate is they've got that right. They've got the stadium right. You know, we managed to stay at Anfield. The capacity is way up. The match day experience is way up for me. Just really, really positive. I'm on a personal level very excited to get it open so we can hopefully get in there.
Yeah, indeed. We'll probably be hoping that it is for United, so we've got a chance at getting those back. Exactly that. And like others, and also people are then waiting because the speculation starts. We love speculation, Liverpool fans, don't we? Like, what about the second half sale? How's that? All the things that have been going on. What it probably tells us, what's the ultimate lesson? Don't listen to all the rumours and all the suggestions, or your mate who knows a builder that works at the site that's told you 2025 and it's going to have all been like, don't listen to the rumours. Like you said, it almost felt a bit negative when Billy Hogan did the first briefing, but now, look at it, and it's got a real shot. So fingers crossed that goes through. And maybe I might probably reading far too much into this. Like you, I think United game feels symbolic because I go back to that title-winning season. That was the game where we won that 2-0. Do you remember when Salah breaks away and the top comes? That felt like the game almost. And then it was that time of year under the lights. It was cold. And you were thinking, we're going to actually win this now. If I had any remote doubt, this is now just, we're going to win it. And it felt like a massive thing. So hopefully it feels the same. And like you said, the rest gets filled in, or the test event certificates that way. But a positive development. And it's important to talk about that, ladies and gents, because injuries were the negative, but the stand, the positive, no doubt.
There's also like the Arsenal-Newcastle games right behind that, you know. So again, really important games as far as like any title challenge is concerned. So again, just on the uplift of the atmosphere, it is massive to get it open for the United, the Arsenal, and the Newcastle games. That's huge.
Hey, this is Chuck the Goat from Goat USA. I wanted to break into your podcast and tell you about the new Goat USA store at Garden State Plaza. Check us out next to Seasons 52 across from Fogo de Chao. Be the goat by wearing the goat and gift your loved ones with the greatest apparel of all time. Heavenly soft and incredibly durable, Goat USA sweatshirts and joggers are the most outstanding gifts this holiday season. So come see us at Garden State Plaza. And if you don't know, you soon will. Goat USA. Apparel for kids and adults. Chuck out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can talk about, God Christ, we'll be here all day talking about these fixtures, but there are some fixtures to get through. Jurgen Klopp quite rightly called it the most intense period. I mean, Fulham at home today, then like you said, Sheffield United away midweek, Palace away. Maybe the fortunate one, the Union SG away is a dead rubber in the last game of the Europa. But then, Christ, what a wait mark. United at home, West Ham home midweek in the Carabao, Arsenal at home, and Boxing Day, Burnley away. I mean, the game's thick and fast. There's no two ways about it. I mean, I think you'll go differently from me, although I said that last time and I was well wrong. What game is standing out there for you?
Yeah, so this will be an interesting one because there are two obvious ones, right? There's the home one to United and the home one to Arsenal. But United's obviously the historically massive, iconic game. Certainly my favourite one to go to. The last few years, it's been incredible. I mean, seriously incredible. Some of the best games I've ever been to as a Liverpool fan, those ones. Really, really wouldn't swap those memories for anything.
Yeah.
However, I think the Arsenal game is the more significant one this season because of the nature of the title challenge. You know, I watched United last night against Newcastle. They're pretty abject for me. I don't think if we don't win that, I'll be disappointed. You know, I really mean that. They're not on our level. We should be going and beating United, especially at Anfield, especially with the kind of hoodoo that will be in their minds, given what's happened to them the last few times they've come. Even at their own ground, we've done it to them. Whereas the Arsenal one, I felt like the last few Arsenal games, Arsenal have been much better against us than in years gone by. There's been a lot of the Klopp era where we've demolished Arsenal, really taken them to bits. I remember a 4-0 one at Anfield, and it was 4 going on 8. You know, it was a demolition. I don't expect that at all this time. And I think you have to really, you know, it's easy to kind of not give credit to anyone except City really as a challenger. But I think Arsenal kind of warrant it now. I think if you're not taking them seriously at this stage, you're mistaken, really. I know they fell off at the end of last season, but I already think there's a little more. I think they're a little more solid this season. Again, I think they look a little grittier than they did before. Because sometimes that kind of flash in the pan football looks wonderful. We've had this under Klopp, you know, and there's a lot of exciting games. This is early on, but they don't. It doesn't always add up to the points, you know, that you maybe think that deserves. There's no mistaking the season we won the league was not the most exciting Liverpool have been under Klopp. We were a bit dirty, a bit tough, you know, a lot of 1-0s in there, a lot of just get over the lines. And I think Arsenal have maybe added that to them to themselves this season. So I think that one it can't be understated, really. I think that one is enormous, absolutely enormous. Just before Christmas, I always find those ones a bit special as well. You know, it'll be under the lights, 5:30. Everyone's kind of in that Christmas spirit. There's always, I think, just a wee kind of uplift in the atmosphere around those ones, you know, around Christmas and New Year. Just a huge one, the Arsenal one. So that's the one for me that I think is certainly the most significant.
I understand that 100%. United or Arsenal, the two that catch your eye. I totally get that. Bizarrely, though, neither of them for me. So literally, United, and people can shout at me, call this as blasé. Like you said, the history, and you look at the way they are. I mean, let's be honest. We all hope their manager hangs on to this game. That's what we're all hoping for, like keep it the same. I fully expect us to beat them. Now, I know people talk, we want another 7-8 and we should be brilliant. Beating them is enough always for me. Yeah, we have seen some great times, but you win, that's important. Arsenal, like you said, I think that would be my second one that I'm sort of looking towards for many of the reasons you said. There is a resoluteness to Arsenal. There's no two ways about it this season. They're not always playing well, but they're grinding out things. They're getting results. I still think Anfield plays the part in blowing them away. I think that's the big factor. That the teams are quite evenly matched, to be honest. But even last season in the 2-2, I mean, they were 2-0 up. And for some reason, Xhaka decided to sort of give Trent a smash. And that just ignites it all, doesn't it? And it brings Anfield into the equation. They're on their backs. Bobby gets that equaliser. And it's all us till the end. They are hanging on.
Yep.
And again, I'll go back to the season before. Like you say, that 4-0.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
They're doing all right. And then Arteta picks a fight with Klopp.
Yeah.
And that ignites Anfield. Like, I just think, because like you said, under the lights, Christmas time, the way it will be, the way they are, Anfield will take care of itself, and that will be the factor that pushes it over the line. So that's one. And now you're going to look at me like I'm a freak, but let me explain my rationale.
I'm looking at the fixtures here, trying to pick which one you're going to go for, because you've left the kind of 3 away league fixtures in there. Could be any of them.
Well, as I say this, listen carefully. I have not taken MDMA for breakfast or anything. There is a full rationale to this. So, Sheffield United away. Okay. Couple of things. Number one, it's a midweek. Just after that, so it'll be interesting to see. It's back-to-back Premier League games. The other thing, and I know you're in the building industry and you're involved with painting and things like that, we have an issue with non-drip dross. That's what we have an issue with, okay? We have an issue, Liverpool especially, with dross and dross away, okay? Think back to last season, people. Bournemouth, we were disgraceful that day. Do you remember? And this is where I think it's important to link it. We beat United 7-0, and then we played Bournemouth. We were a disgrace in that game, an absolute disgrace. We played Nottingham Forest away. Do you remember that? Awoniyi scored 1-0. We were abysmal in that. We think this season, we think, okay, but the half-12, we got over that hoodoo. Look at Wolves City away. Brilliant. How poor were we at times against Luton? Okay. That was the first real relegate, as in dross, away from home. And to me, I was looking for us to put that one to bed. And we failed that challenge, to me, to be honest. Also, let's just be completely real here. You're looking at Sheffield United going, they got beat by Burnley 5-0 yesterday. And some will be saying, and I get this, like, what are you talking about? It's going to be like 8-9-0. And therein, I think, lies the problem a little bit. A lot of fans will be going there thinking, and probably a few in the team, right, if we beat, Fulham, this one's the easy one type of thing. Watch their keeper, I don't know who it is, but watch their keeper become prime Len Yashin, yeah? Watch it just get, like Messi in that bit of frustration. So I hope I'm wrong. I completely hope I'm wrong, and this one takes care of it early. But Liverpool have an issue with the dross away from home. And that is the next one I would see or like to see put to bed. And I know people are going to be shouting, saying, oh, absolute nonsense. But be honest, Mark, was there anything I said there that wasn't factual?
Yes, the bit where you said that's the most important game.
Lies, absolute lies. That is.
No, you make some really good points. That is a clear weakness in Liverpool. Just it is. There's no doubt about it. And it's in application. It's it's almost a mental block, if you will. And it would be great to see us get over it. However, still for me, I still stick with Arsenal, the title game, if you will. But some really good points, I think.
And I have no doubt 99.9% of listeners and viewers will now think I'm absolutely mental. But yeah, that's just one. Maybe it's just blasé. I do think we're that good at the moment, the way we'll play, the resoluteness, even without the performance, the others will take care of themselves. Maybe I'm wild, but we're going to get there because it is time to play. In our last few minutes, honest game-by-game prediction. You're up first, Mark.
All right. So
let's get it all wrong again as normal. So yeah, go.
Yeah, here it goes. My meaningless predictions that are never right. So I've gone for a win for us against Fulham at home. Sheffield United away, despite what you said there, I think we'll win it. Palace away, I actually think we'll drop points there. I think you have to be honest and say we aren't quite at the level where we're just going to go and win every game in the month. And you have to be realistic about where those points are going to drop off, And I think away from home is certainly the weakness for us. I'm always confident at Anfield. So I'm looking at those kind of away ones. I agree Sheffield United are a challenging one because they're the dross, but actually I've always had this little fear of Palace's ground. It's just, I don't know if it goes back to the Liverpool have caved in 13-14 game, the 3-3, but it just remains like a hoodoo place for me. So I think we'll draw there. I think we'll win the dead rubber against Union SG. I think we'll beat United, and I hope convincingly. I think we'll beat West Ham in the Cup at Anfield. Kind of looking forward to that one. We haven't really gone into the League Cup much today, but we're at the quarterfinal stage already. You win that one, and then you're staring down Wembley again. Really, really hope we do go all the way in that. I guess the one that I call the biggest one of the month is Arsenal. I think that one is massive, and I have got us down to draw that, unfortunately. Just kind of going on last season, I thought I agree, they kind of folded in the end, and if Konate had put in that empty net one, and where he sort of tried to chest it and knee it across goal, we would have beat them actually. But I think it relied on them making that mistake with Xhaka, and the year before making that mistake with Arteta. And if they've got any brains at all, they will have looked at that, surely that has come up, and it will come up in their pre-match talk, but they will discuss not riling Anfield. It's clearly their downfall both times. So I think we'll draw that, which I don't think will be the worst result if the other ones have kind of predicted go the way that I've said. And then Burnley away, another really hard one. Another one I predict us to really have to fight tooth and nail for, but I think we will ultimately just win it.
Interesting. What have I gone for? I think we win today. I think we beat Sheffield United. I did have us drawing at Palace. Now, I know people are going to be screaming and saying, we've got a decent enough record there, bar marked PTSD from that old season. And people will also be looking at things like, hold on, they've lost Galore, it sounds like, for the season as well, what other things like that. Yeah, there's just something about that game I don't like. Union SG, it sounds terrible. I don't care. If someone told me right now, it sounds terrible, but if we lose that game, but you'll get no injuries, I would do that deal not to even travel right now. I know people fair enough, travelling Corp, another place in Europe, totally understand all that. But if someone gave me that deal, no injuries, and you just take a defeat, I think Klopp would take it, if you're honest, as well, because it's such the period. United, win. West Ham, win. Arsenal, Anfield takes us over the line for me. So I think we will win that. And then I think we draw against Burnley. I just think back to back. Listen, I hope we're clear, people. We hope we win them all. This is just our honest predictions. For them to start saying, what you saying, look at how many we get right. I'll probably win percentages in the 50s to 60s as in predictions wise. But there's just a few there. I honestly think Liverpool's problem, as we know this season, is not teams at home. It's dross away. That's the bigger the team, like Newcastle, that type of thing, the better it's been. It's usually been the lesser team, shall we say? And there's a few of those that could. I just think there's the smokescreen and the mirage naturally of the big home games, which we're all focused on, understandably, could just cause a little bit of the eye off the ball type of scenario. That is my honest prediction that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair, really do. If you look at the aways we've had against the top teams so far, we didn't lose at Chelsea, we didn't lose at City, we beat Newcastle. Let's be honest, we didn't really lose at Spurs, did we? I mean, it could have gone harder against us. That literally could have beat them. Let's be honest, it could easily have been a Liverpool win, that one. We certainly didn't perform badly either. The bad performances have been bottom 10 away from home.
Yeah, indeed. And that as much as people talk about the big games, and that is the headlines, I totally understand that. I do think this month will just be punctuated by, how we do against the Dross. But we'll see. Time will tell. The final question I'm going to ask, last month, do you remember when all three of us went, well, Andre's definitely coming in January, isn't he, Mark? Do you remember that when we were all like, well, I don't know if it'll be Andre and another, but Andre's definitely coming in. That looks like a prediction that's well and truly gone down the Swanee if all the reports are to be believed. Do you think, I mean, we could go right till the end of December and the window's going to open on the 1st of January, New Year's Day. Do you think moves will have been made for anyone in January? You don't have to give me a name, but are you thinking a position or a player, or are you actually expecting a fully quiet December with a precursor of a fully quiet January?
Yeah, that's happened twice to me now, that Andre thing. I also called Mason Mount happening just days before we did the pod, and days after the pod. It swings that he's going to United, and it looked like a sure thing. And the Andre one also looked like pretty sure. And then I think it was literally the day after we did the October Riddler that it kind of came out that it was Fulham or it was someone else, and it was not going to be Liverpool. So yeah, being very careful with my predictions in future. But it's a tough one, isn't it? If I was in charge, I would still be thinking a DM. I would still, it's the one position where we still don't really have a guaranteed start. I personally don't think it's really working for McAllister there. I think he's given his all. He certainly has nothing to be ashamed about with what he's done and what he's bringing to the team, and just his overall commitment to the cause, sort of thing. And ultimately, we find ourselves in a good position with him playing it. It's not a doomsday story, but I do think that's the one position we really could do with a starter. I think the issue with that is then it has to be quite a big signing for me. It has to be like quite a serious bit of money and a serious player. We saw in the summer that isn't that easily achievable, which I think is what pushed us into the Caicedo thing, is just a lack of anyone else kind of grabbing us, anyone else ticking enough boxes. So they went for a deal that looked really unlikely, and we took our stab, didn't get it effectively, and have to kind of live with that. So I don't actually think we'll get one in January, and I'm hopeful that that's the big one that they're lining up for the summer, really. Liverpool tend to get one in right at the start, like the Nunes one that we got a couple of years, that kind of thing. Liverpool, I think, usually work on the big important one right away, and you get that like kind of right into the start of June or whatever it is, that kind of announcement. So I'm hoping that'll be that one in the summer. There's been a lot of links to centre-backs, various guys, over the last couple of weeks. So I tend to think there's no smoke without fire there. We discussed it on the defensive pod we did a few weeks ago, kind of the nature of what's needed back there, which is Konaté's injuries, Matip's age, Quance's lack of experience, that Virgil's age as well. I guess you have to kind of start future-proofing that. So I think there's maybe like no smoke without fire there. I think it's one of those. I wouldn't be surprised to see us bring in a centre-back. I think that's probably the only thing I expect, if anything, to come in. And on balance, I still probably think no one, truthfully. What about you?
I am now going to, just because we tend to be wildly wrong on these things, I'm hoping my honest prediction now will this into existence by its opposite type of thing, that hopefully my honest prediction will now be like, oh, I would have listened to that. They're a load of idiots. Let's go and get a 6 or something like that. That would be brilliant. So my gut now, especially, is telling me no one. I mean that. When I say no one, unless an opportunity presents itself, like you said, there's a Diaz, a Gakpo they wanted, they've got a strike, or injuries, which you don't kind of want to happen. But my honest rationale for that is we've talked about midfield, like you said. I don't think he could get who he wants if he does want a 6 at this moment in time. I think they're tied up. The second element, when you look at the defence, and like you, there's a lot of names, especially young South American names and that type of thing.
Yeah.
What I'm taking a couple of things is Connor Bradley's now back. Mm-hmm. Connor Bradley's back. He played the other night. So for me, in his mind, there's the Trent cover. And also, Connor Bradley signed a new deal that way as well. I think, Connor Bradley is the Trent backup, and we'll see more minutes, and that will be important. he name-checked Quansah again, didn't he, in his press conference the other day? And he kind of almost, not challenged the journos, but said to them out loud, well, you were all saying, like, we should have signed a centre-back and look at how good Jarell's done type of thing. And he was honest, said, like, not that we as SCC would do this good, but it was kind of a little nod to, like, and I understand, maybe just trust me, I know what I'm doing type of thing. And I kind of said that all summer. I think he thinks his options are better than we think his options are by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So with Quansah doing what he's doing, with Bradley back and signing a new deal, and at some point we are expecting in January Andy Robertson to return to training, Robbo back in the mix as well. Unless there's an injury, when people say business, there could always be like a few loans of kids and things like that, like Bobby Clark, etc. But we're talking like headline first squad. My gut is telling me that it is a very quiet January, which is not, let's be honest, is not always the worst thing. But yeah, that's what I'm steering towards. A very, very quiet, unless anything happens, January.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that kind of, this is kind of going back to the month review before, but that what you were just saying there about Quansah kind of leads me to just want to say one more positive thing about him, which is his performance again the other night was absolutely brilliant against Lask. I know, again, a weak opponent, but I mean, absolutely brilliant. There's a compilation doing the rounds on Twitter. It's well worth looking up if you haven't seen it. Really, really, I mean, if you look from afar, you're watching Van Dijk there. You really are in some of those, the calmness, the way he passes, some excellent stuff. Him and Elliott, both a couple of really good performances this month again for, two big prospects.
Yeah, indeed. And that's the honest story of the defence at the moment. As much as we all had doubts, and this doesn't mean they're all gone, if everyone was honest about this season, Van Dijk back to easily, the best in the league by far. Argument if he's peak, but best. I mean, people are still saying Saliba and things like that, which is always a good reminder when you hear people suggest Saliba is the best centre-back at folks. Remember, it's Christmas time. Remember, those guide dogs do not train themselves, so make sure you support charities and things like that. That's important to say. But Joel Matip, an Indian summer, no doubts about it. Joe Gomez, done more than well a lot of the time in different positions as well. Konate's probably the one where you go, look, a few sort of muscle strains and that, but when he's played, again, has done well. And now in the mix, Quansah, like you said, this is well a level up, from a mile of a level up from a Nat Phillips and a Reece. This is not trying to do those players down. We're talking about a player who, if he was in serious contention for a starting spot by the end of the season, you would not be surprised. So with that into the mix, Bradley back, I am struggling to see.
And Tsimikas has played a little better lately. Robertson's coming back from injury. That's pretty much man for man better than anyone would have predicted on every single one, bar Konate.
Yeah, exactly that. And with the hybrid, the formation where we all thought they'd get exposed, all those types of things. So, yeah, fingers crossed, touch wood. No injuries, nothing like that. Form maintains, but we shall see in December. So, ladies and gents, that's pretty much us at the end. All it really leaves me to say is, Mark, we're probably going to be wildly wrong on the predictions as normal, but thanks for your time. Thanks for your efforts as always.
Yeah, pleasure as always. Don't mind turning up here month after month, hearing how wrong I am.
Yeah, indeed. And neither do I. It's just be nicer if I was right more of the time as well. But ladies and gents, that is another, which we hope you've enjoyed, Red Alert for Anfield Index.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.